If she had slapped me, that would have been better.
Yeah, I would like that.
Better. That's why I tell every single person, if you have any ambitions in life, do not have kids.
Why? Why, man? Hey everybody, welcome to Standup Podcast episode number 10, and it's we have our first double duty guest, and it is Kirill, who you might remember. You should remember him. I didn't have many podcasts still, and I'm already going for seconds. So like you can see, I have many friends that are willing to talk to me. Hey Kirill, how are you doing today?
Hey, great, perfect. Thanks for having me the second time around.
I should maybe call you the way Yassine calls you, like Kirill.
Kirill, yeah. It's like, well, you know, some people would call me Cyril just because there is a French name.
Like a good old bowl of cereal.
Exactly, yeah.
I like Kirill because it sounds like, you know, a fantasy warrior from like not the best kind of books, like something from the late Dragonlance, you know, volume, something around there.
It reminds me more of some 90s superhero anime, you know, like we had Grindizer, we had like Evangelion.
Oh my God. You're tickling the parts of me that are rarely tickled.
Come on, every single person who grew up in Russia in the 90s remembers that intro.
Ta 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 ta. Can we get flagged for this melody? Probably.
Grandizer.
That was from, you didn't put your heart into it. It was Grandizer. So
that sounded like a freaking opera singer right now.
So what I love like about Japanese language is that they sing the N because it's a vowel in Japanese. So they don't go like Grandizer, they go Gren, and then they sing the N. And that tells you a lot about these people.
There is a very interesting thing about Japanese language. They practically do not have sound t. They replace it with ch. And it was a very nice. My wife told me the story of how they had like. How do you call this person? Like a CEO of their company in Russia.
CEO?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he was driving, like he came to Russia, right? Japanese guy. And he was driving and he was learning the Russian language by using the navigator as well. Mm. And he goes like on the road and it goes like, oh, in 300 meters, turn right. And then it says in Russian like затем, which is like then. Yeah. And he was like, Zachem, which is like why, so he heard why instead of then.
It's a very existential country.
It's a very philosophical question.
I think like Russia, with all of our drinking and writers, even the navigator will give you an existential crisis.
Have you heard the voices that they use for these navigators, man?
I heard them. It's been a long time though. I actually, you know what? I re-listened to our first podcast today on 2x speed because I sort of wanted to freshen up on what was there, and like I wanted to give you like kudos, a lot of stuff, like because first of all, the first part of the podcast, I am amazed how you did not like just go over the table and punch me in the face because I was interrupting you so much. It was like you would start telling a story and it would be like, and I interrupt you once and then you come back to the story, then I interrupt you again. And it was like we settled into some sort of rhythm by the second half. It was good, but in the beginning it was just like really cringy to watch.
Nah, don't worry. I'm already used to some assholes cutting me off in the middle of the sentence.
In the middle of the road too?
Yep. Hopefully not during sex. That would be awful.
It's a new genre of cuckold porn. It's like
you get interrupted in the middle of it.
And it's just like, and it's in the part where people already are not watching. Like it's like the first 10 minutes go, it's just regular porn, and then somebody walks in and is like, "Get off her!" and like,
and it's like a movie director, he's like, "Jesus Christ, you should have finished like 10 minutes ago. What the fuck, man?"
Yeah, and I was amazed like how long you can keep on track with the stuff that we're talking about.
No, just it's been like that my entire life, because when you talk to people, all of a sudden you go to a different direction, and then you just completely lose the track of whatever you were talking about. So whatever you had been talking about, Jesus Christ, I'm a fucking English teacher. Those American movies destroy my grammar.
You do have another superpower that I actually like. I am trying to work on myself. Is that like you have just like 0-second latency to laughing at things that are jabs in your direction, like whenever there's like I'm trying to offend you or just like to roast you, you're like just immediately laughing. There's no discrepancy there at all. And whenever like I get insulted, I'm like,
nah, it's just like, it's whenever you're a comedian, like if you want to do comedy, you have to be able to laugh at yourself. And most of the times, everything that people tell me is like just laughing at me at some of the things that I have, in my character and stuff like that. With the exception of my wife, probably, because she doesn't have the filter between her brain, and her mouth. And she always tells me, like, I think that I told this thing before, that I practice my jokes on my wife.
Yeah.
And it's like she hates me for that because 90% of what I write is shit. And she has to go to listen to that. But she's very straightforward. Whenever she doesn't like it, I'm like, I've just written the greatest joke in history. And I'm like, let me tell it to you. And I tell it to her, and she looks at me, she goes like, that's not funny.
Yeah, that's word for word what I listened to today from our first episode. I remember that one.
Yep. So some of the callbacks there, but I don't know. It's been pretty interesting. Last year was your first full-time year in stand-up, right?
Well, it's actually it was not full time. I started like in May, and that was the very first open mic. And I think overall, I did it was like 13 or something. Just like I tried to do, and I think I did almost every one that was there. But it is less than I would like it to be.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that I've just said full time, and then it's like, nah, it's not full time, fucking shit. Because if full time comedians, they do like 5 shows per week, but that all goes down to how many English shows you have. Here in Tbilisi, it's like 2 maybe at most per week, and that's about that. Back in Russia, like in 2021, we would have like 3 English shows per week, but nothing comes to comparison with Russian shows, because in Moscow, every single day you would have 2-3 Russian open mics in 3 different parts of the city. And if you planned your schedule correctly, right, you could just get on stage at every single one of those shows.
Just perform all the time.
Yeah. I know a Russian comedian, Vasya Medvedev, who does that. He wakes up, he sits down, he writes for 5 hours, and then he sets off and goes to the shows, and just practices his material.
I've been thinking a lot about comedy, and I've been thinking a lot about one of the things that's I've been thinking about what changed from our first episode, because it's just like 3 episodes ago in terms of the podcast, but I'm like a lazy bastard, so it's actually been like 6 months since we recorded it. It's been a long time ago. First of all, I wanted to say that you look a lot more lively. Maybe it's because it's the January holidays. Maybe you slept a little bit.
Nah, it's like, it's funny how it works, because I got, ever since then, I've gotten even more work.
How?
I've gotten even more work, yeah. But I finally started writing new stuff. Because the problem that I had back then, right, is because I didn't write anything new. Mm-hmm. I just didn't have energy to do that. And I felt like shit because I hate reusing my old material on stage. I know that I have to do that, especially if the audience is new, and you feel like your new stuff that you're testing is not really working out. You're like, okay, let me go into the bag of my old material, polished one, and present it to the audience. But then towards the end of the year, I texted my friend. I was like, hey man, I want to do this thing. I want to write a joke every single day. And that was the bingo, because I know that I knew in my head that he would just continuously annoy me every single day, like poke me, like on Telegram, like, come on, hey, this is how every day looked like, for that month. He was like, hey, mofo. Daily joke. And that's the way that it was. And I finally started writing after a very long time, and I still do. I like, it's been like I think 3 months ever since I started doing that. Not every day right now, of course, but something started happening in the world, in my life, and I just try to write about it all the time.
So you kickstarted it.
Yep, basically, yep. And that's why maybe I look a little bit more lively.
So it's just days. Like you're more like I don't know, like confident in your like conversation with the world because you feel better about yourself.
Kind of like that. It's also like the thing that I used to have, and I still do from time to time. Sometimes I have this stupid part of my brain somewhere over here in the back of my head.
You know where it is exactly. That's cool.
Because that's where the vibration goes from. Or maybe somebody hits me in the head every single day. I have no idea.
While you're asleep, it's probably your wife.
My daughter, most likely,
Maybe it is your daughter.
A couple of days ago, I woke up because, our daughter, she has her own bed. Yeah, but in the middle of the night when she wakes up and she feels a little bit scared, so she crawls over to us. Yeah, right. And I was sleeping there, and I woke up at 5 a.m. because she was like rolling in bed, and she like kicked me right in my left thigh. Like, that was horrible. I was like, what the fuck was that? I didn't feel any pain. I was like, who threw a flash grenade right now? So that was the thing.
Was it like a heel kick or is like a karate, like with the shin?
I think it was like a spin kick. Like a spinning kick, like that felt, because she got me. Yeah, she got me with a shin. It felt like a shin, because it's like a little bit edgier, like the shin itself. So you feel it, like it's like pinpoint shot right into my fucking eye.
It's when you heard her ki. It's like, yeah, horse.
The girl is gonna grow up and she's gonna be like a fucking martial artist. Yeah. But anyway,
yeah. With writing, I want to say that I did that in the past, but not with jokes. I had like a pact with my friend. We were each writing like one page of fiction every day. So the idea was that like either you write a page of fiction or you actually give 1,000 rubles. Back then, rubles were a lot more valuable than they are right now. Yeah, and so we would do that, and like we ended the year each with like over 250 like something pages, because we both slacked off some days, and we realized that we don't want to do that anymore because it's a weird process. But what it did do, it gave us a lot of practice writing, and a lot of confidence writing. Even just like sitting down to write some shit. That's one of the, I think, like my content creation career started from this ability to sit down and write some shit and not care about how bad it is, but like to hit the volume. And it sounds like such a bad way of going around about just like creating something, but to me that's the foundation of basically doing anything.
That's the foundation when it comes to writing. It also helps you develop your own way, like your own way, the way that you write, the way that your delivery works, because one thing that you have when you get on stage, you have a very memorable delivery. That's what makes you stand out among everyone else who performs at our shows. You have this, that's a kind of a replica of CNL late night show 5-minute bit delivery.
Oh, SNL.
Yeah, that's the kind of vibe that I get from you. But that's what makes you stand out as well. That's what makes you stand out, and it's great.
In stand-up, you want to know how to stand out and when to stand down, and then you can do stand-up.
Yeah. That's why, it's been so freaking interesting because, I don't know. Have you been? You were at the show, right? Or maybe you had already left by the point when.
Sounds like the beginning of a noir
kind of like that, yeah. When a girl from the audience, she
was there.
You were there.
Let's talk about that. I love that. So the thing was, she was like, there was a girl with colored hair, and I think she entered somewhere around my set. With
a dog.
With a dog, yeah, she had a dog.
And the dog, by the way, I love when audience members come in with dogs to our shows, because like it's so easy to play off and make some laughter, some laughs, off of the dog, especially when the dog barks after somebody cracks a punchline, especially if it's not a good punchline and the dog barks. It's like creating such
horribly
a awesome
going on a
atmosphere.
tangent here. Here's what I feel about that. Like, when like you are like on stage and you are the only animated one, you're moving around, but you have to stay sort of like in that spot, and the audience, they also really have to stay in their seats. You really don't want anybody to walk around. That ruins it. You have this standoff, but there is a lot of tension there, and cutting that tension, that's how you get the jokes. And getting like something like a dog feels almost supernatural. Because in that situation, nobody can freely move around. But the dog suddenly can just cross this entire space when nobody else can. And it feels like, it's such a breath of fresh air somehow.
And sometimes, even most of the times, especially when you have inexperienced comedians, or comedians who very rarely perform in English, they don't react to that. It's just like it's like the funniest shit ever when you have like a dog running around barking and everyone is like, nope, it doesn't exist there. It's not there. I refuse to acknowledge the existence of this dog.
We're gonna take a long road to this girl, but I wanted to say that like also I'm actually feeling kind of really happy about the amount of YouTube videos with stand-up that come out, because like there are some, I don't know, like some magical moments that happen that like if somebody's recording and it's a good recording, you can really kind of glimpse not into just like, so I love specials. They're very polished, very beautiful, with lighting is professional. Everything's really professional. The jokes are amazing. But this feeling of glimpsing into somebody else's open mic and how it feels and that actual moment, that I really enjoy that. And like I just wish that one day I'll see a recording of a stand-up comedian getting bitten by a dog during his joke.
Well, I mean, we already have an example of Jim Jeffries getting punched in the face, and that was not recorded on a pro camera. That was like somebody recorded on their cell phone, and this is exactly what kickstarted his, rise to popularity after he got punched in the face by some Irish guy, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so that brought him.
I haven't seen that. That's actually like that's really bad.
It's still on YouTube.
How come I have not seen that? Like the algorithm is actually it cursed me because like I don't believe.
But that's also like a 12-year-old video, maybe even older. So
it's probably not that popular. So I guess actually today's content creation, it would be like to stage somebody punching you in the face. And then you probably would get some viral hits. Well, you probably need like a groin kick as well.
I actually got accused once of like having a plant in the audience, because back in the day my wife used to come to my shows before she got pregnant, and she would sit there. And she would, like, when I would be on stage, and I would joke about her, she would constantly react to that. Somehow she would say something. And just the chemistry was very good between the two of us. It was just a funny back and forth that the audience laughed. But then the comedians were like, you probably, you had probably guys, agreed on to do that beforehand. I was like, no, that bitch just opens her mouth and she talks to me.
You agreed onto being together until death does you part.
Yeah. I like, just like in my joke, when we decided to get married, she had a brain tumor, so basically
was not a valid decision.
Dude, really. One of the only reasons why we got married, and that is true, and that what makes one of my favorite jokes. We got married because she wanted me to to bury her in case she would prematurely pass away, because she had a falling out with her family back then. They hadn't talked in like 6 years, right? She didn't have any relatives there, and she was like, well, okay, at least you will bury me, you know? So yeah, my official, it's not like I'm a husband. I'm, you know, like I'm an undertaker with ambitions, I would say. That's who I am in this family.
Like just yesterday, like I had a conversation with Rupert, and it actually went kind of deep. So he told me about his mom passing away 3 weeks ago. And like it was a really good conversation actually. And my equipment fucked up the audio, and I'm just distraught over that. Like I guess just the amount, like recently, like I did podcasts. Everybody's a comedian. Like before that, I was just interviewing my friends because I was just, you know, like I want to do a podcast. Let me interview who's gonna come on. Let me get some of my friends who know English. Don't even like have any theme. Just like let's do that. And then I guess I got really entangled with comedians more. And it feels so weird now because like it was just like less than a year ago, I really didn't have much to do with comedy. In fact, like I liked it a lot and I would love to be somehow connected to it. But it was not like a big part of my life. And now it's just a really somehow feels like it's a huge part of my life, even though, like, you know, in terms of time, it takes a little. Like, it's just, I don't know, several hours every 2 weeks, maybe several hours every week, if you consider, like, writing jokes or maybe making podcasts. But it's just, somehow that's a big thing I can rely on. And that's even after just a little time. And I am also amazed that after I started talking in a row to comedians, things that come out are either laughter or really deep traumatic stuff. So, and those are the two things that come out.
One is the way of coping with another. Because when my dad passed away 3.5 years ago, just like 4 months before my daughter was born, we attended the funeral, you know, like we organized everything. The next day, I was Skyping with my friend, fellow comedian, writing a joke about my dad's passing. You know, for me, that's always been the way to cope with some shit. Just turn it into a joke because it could be a very interesting thing. You know, it's just such it's a matter of perspective. Comedy is, you know, especially if you are a comedian, when you are a comedian, and whatever happens in your life, you try to show that in a funny way, but through your own perception. I think that this is one of the best, expressions of human emotions that you can ever find, and that's what makes it so beautiful. In fact, you know, it's just awesome to me, at least. That's one of the reasons why I love comedy. And that is one of the reasons why I love when people express their own emotions and perceptions of life in their comedy. Because most of the comedians, when you look at them, when you listen to their material, at least Russian ones, it's like somebody gave them a manual on how to write jokes, you know, and it's so on and so forth. Because they talk about things that have never happened to them. And that's okay, you know, like you can write that material and it may be funny, but to me, it's always much more interesting to listen to when some shit actually happened to the person. And then they are like drawing some kind of conclusions and ideas out of that.
That's another callback to our first podcast.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I have become... I think that I have softened much more on
the topic.
On the topic, yeah. But only because, you know, we have Russian comedians who perform mostly in Russian, right? And they come to our shows, and this is what I've always admired about Russian comedians: their work ethic. They are some of the hardest working comedians you'll ever see in the world. Like really, our organizer Dasha, sometimes she complains to me about like, oh, these guys, they come with the same jokes. I'm like, Yeah, but every time that they tell a joke, they add something to it. It's not the same joke every time. You can listen to one particular comedian. I don't mean like one particular that I have in my head. Yeah, just whoever comes. If there is a comedian a Russian comedian who comes to our shows every time, yeah, just like pay attention to their jokes and pay attention to how they rewrite and add up to those jokes every time they tell it. Usually with Russian comedians, it starts with a 10-second joke, and then it can bloat into like a 3-minute bit. It's incredible the way that it works.
I think that's actually like the way Louis C.K. described in one of the interviews how he writes, and I think that's a really good way of writing. The only reason I myself try to really rotate a lot of material, because I am trying to make better videos at the same time. So I want to try different jokes. And I feel like this is just too little opportunity to try ideas. If I do once every 2 weeks and I polish my jokes, it's just going to be, I'll have the same 4 jokes by the end of the year, and that's gonna be just sad.
That's a problem with the amount of shows that we have. We don't have many of them, and it's like I know that feeling when you write something and you're like, okay, I want to do this, I want to check this joke, how does it work? But it's like you don't get a lot of opportunities to do that, because you write a joke, you check out the reaction, and you're like, okay, so what do I do? Do I polish this joke? Do I make it better and I tell it the next time on stage? Yeah, or do I write some new stuff? And there is a very big possibility that you will just, it will be like the endless cycle of working on the same material.
I have only one joke that I managed to grow at this point, and that's actually the one about like me being a record-breaking athlete, because and that one. I kind of like observed it, and it somehow naturally came, because there was just the joke of like your Apple Watch says record outdoor walk, which is actually record outdoor walk, and then what I in the end added, I realized that nobody kind of got that joke a lot, so I added like a character of a friend who is berating me about it, that I am an idiot and I don't understand it, and like. I really love that moment, actually, of people who didn't get the joke start laughing, joining the people who got the joke immediately, and they somehow pretend like they got it from the first time. And that's I've seen that with other jokes from different comedians, that there are like different levels of like people who catch on incredibly fast, who are witty, and people who are kind of lagging behind. And like that's a cool thing to be able to do, to kind of scoop them all up, not to leave the slow people behind, and sort of like give them a second opportunity to get the joke.
That's also like, in the matter of delivery and pacing as well, because sometimes you just need to give people some time to think, right? Like I'm gonna try out a new bit tomorrow. Actually, we have a show tomorrow. Yeah,
we do.
And and there I wrote like a joke about how the Georgian taxi drivers, they never buckle up. Right, and they don't. Yep, and they can feel offended when you try to do that. Yeah, and it's like how I put my daughter into the cab, and I start like like using the seatbelt, and he turns to me. He was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm trying to make sure my daughter is safe." And he goes like, "You don't need that." And I go like, "So, dude, look, I have only one daughter left." Like that's the pause that when I was writing that, I was like, I have only one daughter, and then I went on with the rest of the bit, and then when I came back to that, because every time this is what I do, like I write a bit, right, I leave it for like 15 to 20 minutes, then I come back to it and I'm like, okay, so where can I add jokes, and I saw that it was like only one daughter. I was like, that can be something, like left. Yeah, it's just one word, but it automatically makes it like funny. But if I just spitballed through this one, I have only one daughter left. Yeah, that wouldn't be funny. That wouldn't be funny because it's not a play of words. It doesn't give anyone the time or a chance to think over it, and so on and so forth. So yeah. But yeah, sometimes when you're ranting, for example, like that kind of delivery when you're just ranting, and people just and you like stockpile those ridiculous punchlines that you have, and like you don't even stop, you don't give people a chance to breathe yet to catch a breath, and they're just like the laughter is just increasing and increasing and increasing. That can also be the case.
I think like with the belt, it's a cool thing because you got some observational thing that like I immediately, like when you talked about buckling, I'm like, yeah, I had this moment, and like I'm basically I even think I can write another joke about the same topic and it will be a different joke because like it's such a rich thing because like I had literal arguments with the taxi drivers where they were trying to convince me that I shouldn't. Like, I buckled, and then they're like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, what the fuck? And the guy was like, what do you think? I don't know how to drive? And I'm like, I don't give a shit, man. And that's it's a beautiful thing. Like, but you know what? I think like with the record, like I kind of make this type of joke in my everyday life as well, where there's no explicit punchline. Like there is, and I realize that those don't really work well.
You mean the types of jokes where you leave some room for thought to the audience?
No, I mean just like when they need to think of the punchline in their head.
Okay.
And so like this, just with this, just to have a concrete example, I'll go back to the record outdoor walk. So like I would do this joke just literally this way. Like I look at my watch, it's record outdoor walk. Nothing. And there is no like so for you to laugh at that joke, you need to think about it, realize that it's wrong, remember what's the correct one, and once you remember it, that's when you unlock the punchline, that's when you laugh. And I would like, as I've been watching, like I think it's like 15% of people do that, like that they would do this mental like work get to that joke.
You just mentioned that, and I'm already thinking like how you can use the audience to actually expand on that joke, because such situations like we've just described, yeah, it happens to everybody, right? These are just such simple situations, but the way that the events unfold, yeah, they are different, right? This way is very different, and so when I just am a little bit lazy, to write the jokes myself or to come up with ideas myself, I'm like, I tell this joke, I tell this punchline, and then I go to the audience. I'm like, so have you ever had such situations? So and they start throwing some ideas at me, what happened to them, and I can use that, to expand on the joke if you want to expand.
True,
on
no,
it,
of course.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's those are just like I know, like I feel like everybody's like intimate like process of writing is just a little bit different, and that's also cool. And as you're saying, like you leave a joke for 15 to 20 minutes and you come back and you expand on it, and like I do it completely a different way. Like I'll throw, like I'll think of a piece of a joke that's funny, something, and I'll throw it in my channel, and then when I'm like before a show, I'm like I have the old jokes I can do, and like in the taxi going to the show or like waiting for my turn, I'm like I want something new, like, and I'll be scrolling through my channel, looking at these bits and pieces, and I'm like, oh, this could be something, and for some reason that's like for me the very best moment when I can make a joke, when I'm like I'm right there, I'm almost there. And I have this energy of the audience kind of already present, so that I can like, oh, I'm about to go in front of these people, and like I want to give them something because I don't want them to like feel like their time was wasted. And I'm already in this situation. I'm like, oh, suddenly it forms like immediately right there, and that's and I think like everybody's different because I didn't hear somebody doing it exactly that way. but I heard a lot of different like cool variations of how people write.
The premises, the premises can be the same. It's just like everybody, but the punchline, the way that the story unfolds, it's completely unique to every single person. What I like the most is when you come up with some funny stuff to a joke on the fly, during your performance. Sometimes it can happen when you just completely don't expect that. Like I remember, like one of my favorites in my experience, such moments was when I had a joke about my daughter, when she was just very, very little, and I'm on stage and I'm like telling that, and I misspoke a little bit, I misused the word.
Stumbling really works.
Yeah, and so what I said, I was like, so it's very fun to observe how my daughter is developing, and just immediately I hear my friend, a fellow comedian, he explodes in a hyena laughter, and because we workshop a lot together. And I was like, why the fuck is he laughing? And then I immediately shed the word, it's the word that he used. And just within like 3 seconds, I was like, yeah, developing like a phone, next year I'm getting a new model. And that's what I said. And the audience loved it. It's not the funniest joke in the world, but just because it came off naturally, right? The audience was like, yeah, that's actually a very dumb word to use in this situation, dude. But at least you caught the idea of what it is. That's like really, that's what comes off with the audience, very often. And when you host a show, it can be very easy to do, because if the audience is there to have fun, they will make themselves laugh. You don't need to try hard, you just really don't. Sometimes it can be difficult, yeah, but most of the times they're like, okay, so we're here, let's have some fun. Our audiences are like that. They are most of the times, they know where they're coming for, what they're coming for. So that's very nice.
Our audience is very generous, just definitely.
I would say too generous.
Yeah, like worlds. You're not even sure like whether your thing is like really working sometimes, because like people will laugh with the timing, but it's maybe not work. I noticed like one thing. I watched back, like I'm at this point, like at a really weird point. I'm not sure, like I have I guess a weird like comedy path here, because I've been recording and posting since the very first show, which is not what you do usually.
No, that's actually exactly. Sorry to interrupt you there, yeah, but that's the best way to do that, because, like I said, like this is something that I was very stubborn, and I only started doing that 3 years into being on stage, But this is what I recommend every single person right now. Record yourself. It doesn't necessarily need to be the video, at least the audio, right? But you have to do that. This is the best judge that you will have.
I don't mean just recording. I mean like that I started posting it to YouTube. Like
that's also good. That's also good. No, it can be like a very good collection, of your way. Like, no, you can see how you improve, That can be a little bit demotivating when some asshole comes into the comments and go like, that's not funny, go suck my dick or something like that.
I just recently rewatched, like I have 4 videos published, and I have 3 more not edited, and just I need to go get around to that. Like what I realized is, like, recently I started being able to see how much they suck. And like I couldn't, because and this is interesting. Like I rewatched them like every, I don't know, like a month and a half, 2 months, and I would be like, oh yeah, that worked, that was okay. And now recently I rewatched them, and I can clearly see that all 4 of them suck ass, and that's a really, like, this is really the the full part. Like you need to become a master, you need to be a fool first. And being so open about it with myself, instead of like, okay, I'm gonna pretend I don't see myself, and I'll look at myself once I'm like at a certain level, and I'll be like, okay, I started here, but I'm kind of really looking at what I'm doing from the beginning, and it's a weird spot to be in, because like there is no other way. Okay.
No problem. Okay, I just spilled water.
Yeah, that's good. Like, for a second I was like, oh my god, I don't have enough money to buy this another. Like,
You see, this is exactly why I put it here. You know, the
Thank you.
mug would have covered it.
thank you, Kirill. Just because like this thing, this thing costs a lot.
I'll just wipe it with my sock right now.
You have napkins there.
Yeah, by the way, sure. Yeah.
It's you wanted to wipe it with your sock, and I'm just like exposing. No, I don't.
My dirty fantasies. You don't respect.
I don't give a shit about this floor. I only give a shit about this. I think like it's not that expensive. It's like a $2,000 laptop.
No, it is expensive.
It is expensive, and like I bought it, and I'm like, if it ever breaks, because it's not given me to my work. Like that, I don't know. I don't know what's next.
It's like with me, like I have, I had a PC built right before I left Russia, and that's like I put in like $2,000 into it, $2,500 into it, right? And so it's a very powerful PC, and with all these constant electricity cutoffs,
fuck man,
here, I'm like, this shit is gonna burn to hell.
You might want to get one like
UPS.
This.
Yeah, I need to get a UPS. Yeah,
it's been acting weird lately, though. That's one of the things that's good about the laptop because it has battery power, and it just like okay, I'm not doing it.
I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna buy a MacBook.
Oh man, I was onto something. I was talking about myself as per usual because that's what I enjoy to do.
You were talking about how you think that your first videos suck, how you reflect going back, watching that.
So the thing is like it's a weird moment where there is no other way than to create absolute shit to get to a place where you create something that's kind of good, and it's just so weird to be observing yourself like. I don't know, like I've started learning Japanese and I'm like, oh, I'm going to suck at Japanese for 3-4 years, like a lot before I ever even start not being complete shit at it. And that's hard to take. For me, that's just hard to take.
That's just a matter of perspective, because like I have a lot of things that I'm trying to do. But unfortunately, I just don't have a lot of time to do that.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of work.
I
work practically every single day without any days off, and then you want to spend time with your family, and so on and so forth. And like one of those things for me is Georgian. I've been living here for a year and a half. I can't like freely speak Georgian. I understand people, and it's very nice because one thing that I love about Georgian people, they will appreciate you trying to speak their own language to them, and they will help you out. Like with several taxi drivers, it's been like that, when they would tell me something and I'm like, I don't know the word, and then they would try to say it in Russian or in English. And I was like, that's the thing. And that's the kind of thing I have in my head. Like, I don't have time to sit down and study, and so on and so forth. So I feel a little bit ashamed that for a year and a half living here, and I'm not planning to leave, I want to continue living here, that I haven't been able to learn the language at this level. But then again, some moments I get brought back to earth, and like basically these moments show me that I'm actually doing not a bad job.
You went a lot further than many people. Actually.
Yeah. So like one of the cases was on the 2nd of January, I went to Spar. Not fucking there. and the if somebody listens from the United States, they're like Spar.
The montage of Kirill training to beat the current Georgian heavyweight champion starts.
Yeah, exactly. So no, to the shop, right, to the supermarket, and there was a woman. I'm standing in a queue, to check out, and there's a Russian woman. And there are only 2 cashiers at the shop. Young Georgian girls, they don't speak Russian, like at all. And this woman comes and she goes like, Lavrovый list, like she needs this. I don't even remember how to say this thing shit in English, to be honest.
Oh man, I remembered it at some point.
Yeah, let me actually. So anyhow, so she needs this fucking thing. for cooking. Yeah, it's called bay leaf. Yeah, bay leaf, of course.
Okay.
She needs a bay leaf, and the cashiers just don't understand her, And this is like what a lot of Russian people do, They think that if somebody doesn't understand them, they have to start saying the same shit but slowly and almost like pointing at their mouth, Lavrovi. Like she's standing there, and the poor girls, they're like, "What the fuck does she want from us?" And at this moment, like they're running around, and I catch the cashier. She passes by me. I grab her by the hand. And I'm like, "Ukatsravat," which means like, "Excuse me." Yeah, and I'm like, "Dapnis potole shirdeba," which means like she needs a bay leaf. And I just remembered that, because my tutor and I, we had like this lesson.
Where he made you cook him breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. pay with breakfast. No, about vegetables, learning vocabulary about fruits, vegetables, and I just remembered that, and the cashier, she was like, Madlova. Like it felt so great, and I was like, you know what? I'm not exactly a lost soul when it comes to learning Georgian.
I'm looking forward to the sex shop version of this situation as well. It's like she needs a double-sided
God, yeah, imagine that.
anal dildo with a twisting.
I need a twisting dildo. And she starts speaking louder and louder,
Until she comes. Yeah, that's like, I understand.
So
I feel ashamed. Like, I'm not learning Georgian at all. And I'm not, but I know that I'm not staying like in Georgia. So it is a really weird thing to be like in a country that you're not really going to stay in, but just like this is a space in between two different spaces, like, and that's really weird.
Purgatory.
Purgatory.
It's like
yeah.
purgatory. Yeah. I mean, like I have the same thing, but not in the case that I want to leave the country, right? No, I want to live here. Yeah. So, but there is like always like every single time that you do the visa run, every single time that you go back to the Georgian airport and you're like at the customs.
I'm about to do a visa run.
There is still this retarded part of your brain. In my case, this is over here, in the back of my head, that goes, there is like a 0.2% chance that they will not let you back into the country. And guess what? You are the one. You're the lucky guy. So
I keep thinking about that. I haven't left for almost a year now, like because of that, and that's it went on to be kind of a dumb thing. Like I think I will be able to do that because, well, first of all, I didn't have a choice, but I also have been like I've been specifically looking to put away enough money, just that is separate from like regular savings, to just be able to ship the fucking studio to where I'm gonna be.
Same thing, man. Same thing. I've been saving money just in case I need to move my family to a different country.
Yeah, because that's a no-go. Like if so I am trapped outside of the country, and the dog, the cats, and all of my tech is here. So what's now?
And this is the point where I feel a little bit, like happy, because when I talk to my wife about such possibility, we know it probably will not happen. Everything is going to be fine, yeah. But then I tell my wife every time, but you know what? I feel actually a little bit good about this, because guess what? I am not the one who's going to have to handle the packaging of all the shit that we have here. It's going to lie on your shoulders. I will just need to go to a different country, rent a flat, and that's that, But you,
honestly,
on the other hand,
I'm like, first of all, I foresee so much like remote hand holding that I would have to do for all of this shit to be packed correctly.
That's true, of course, yeah.
Because like a lot of these things can be quite easily broken if you really mismanage them. and I really don't have the resources to buy back any of this shit. So like that's
My wife, but you know what? I'm proud of her because she knows that if she needs to transport my PC, she will by by plane, for example, she needs to unscrew the graphics card because it's the most expensive shit in my PC.
hopefully they won't like tax you on it when you come in.
I actually, like if that's your personal stuff,
Yeah.
they don't do that.
Yeah.
If that's your personal stuff. But then again, if they want to, they will be like, nah.
There was this moment of like I had like a bag full of like high quality gear.
Dildos.
And like just like microphones and like cameras and just like everything. And in the airport, they told me to step aside with all of that. And I had like a conversation in a small room where like, what is this? What is all this? I'm like, well, I'm a streamer. This is my setup. And they're like, so it's your personal things? I'm like, yes. And they were like, okay. And there was
the pause, like that dramatic pause.
when I like my life kind of flashed in front of my eyes because like paying 30% on all of this tech.
Shit.
That's I would have to sell some of this shit to pay 30% on this shit. And I'm not happy about that.
Yeah. Oh, let's make a call back because if anyone's gonna be listening to this carefully, they'll be like, motherfucker, 40 minutes ago you've mentioned a situation with a girl at the show. Yeah.
Yes, we did. And I promised to not get there fast. We're doing our best to not get there fast.
We're living true, like staying true to our word.
Okay, let's work on setting this thing up. So it was one of our open mics, like the bi-weekly ones.
It was towards the end of the show. We had only the headliner left.
Yes.
It was a good show.
Yeah.
It was a good show.
It was a good show. I really liked it. So this girl was an audience member with a dog. And she came in actually not by the end, but like in the second half, I think. And I remembered her because I was making a joke about like my colored hair being a substitute for an interesting personality. And she had colored hair as well. She had like purple hair. So I was like, And I thought maybe she would be angry, kind of like, or offended because she also has colored hair. But no, she was laughing. She was all good. She had a dog. And I'm like, oh, this is a nice girl. I went backstage, and while you were, I remember introducing another comedian, sort of like we had a small interaction with her where like I patted her dog and it was all good. And I felt like, oh, it's a nice girl. Like, it's just a nice girl.
To be fair, the same kind of experience I had as well, because her dog, would come to me, all the time, and I would crack jokes about her. I would pat her dog, and she was okay with that as well.
Yeah, and then like the thing happened like when you went on to
porn jokes.
Yeah, you went on to some jokes like that you do between comedians, and this one was just before the headliner came out. And just to like make it clear, I think there were a lot of pretty offensive jokes made before you while she was there.
You would be laughing. Like there was Ellie was there, and she had like plenty of much more offensive jokes, and she would come to me after the show and she'd be like, hey, what the hell? It's as if it should have been me.
So what happened? You tell the story. What happened?
So what happened was I was telling a joke about Sasha Grey being my favorite porn actress, but I got very upset because found out that she stopped doing porn and now she has her own cooking channel, and that one of your videos she was making dumplings, and the punchline was, so she looks into the camera and she goes, so I'm going to be making dumplings tonight, but because they have very little meat in the recipe, I will put more meat inside. Pause. People laugh, because they kind of understand what the analogy is. They'll be like, new job, old habits. And people just start laughing at that. It's a joke I've been telling, I think, for the past 4 years or something that.
I think I heard it like a couple of times.
Yeah, back in Moscow, and I used to do this joke because I can rely on it, anytime that I need to. And at that point, like right after the punchline, she just comes practically face to face with me. And you said like we don't have a stage there.
Yeah, well, it's
no elevation.
it's a space.
It's a space, yeah. And she comes to me, and there is basically like my face, her face, and there is just like a mic stand in between the two of us. And she starts yelling at me. She starts pointing her finger at me, and she goes like, "This is not a joke. Porn is abuse. You are an abuser. I hate you." I think that she actually said it like, "I hate you." Like this is all types of abuse and whatever they talk about porn actors is, like being abused and assaulted, sexually assaulted, and so on and so forth. And then she just stormed off.
Yeah, with the dog. With the dog,
yeah. Now, truth be told, this is the moment where I feel proud of myself and my experience on stage, because had it happened to me 5 years ago, I would have probably just frozen and that's it. Like I wouldn't know what to do. But in the middle of her rant, at me, and I still have the microphone, like she hadn't stopped ranting on me, and I look at her and I like have the microphone in my head and I go like, okay, I get it. I'll cancel my Pornhub premium subscription. I swear to God, and she stormed off. I did not care about that. This is not the first time that happened to me. For 7 years, I've been doing that. And yeah, it didn't break anything. I felt a little bit bitter because after that, I was like, guys, just to remind you, this is a comedy show, and if you come to a comedy show and you get offended at jokes at a comedy show, I wanted to say just go kill yourself, but then I stopped myself from saying that. And that's what it was. It was kind of, there is like a very good Louis C.K. joke on that topic, where he says, like, if you don't like a joke, if you don't like a joke that you hear at a comedy show, here's what you need to do. You need to take a piece of paper. You need to write all of your, all of the things that you have against this, and you then take this piece of paper and go kill yourself. Like, that's what Louis C.K. basically.
I remember that joke. Like he had, like, if you have anything to add, like if you have any notes, this is what we do. Like you take it, write it down, go outside, go home and kill yourself.
So that was the bit. Yeah,
that was a good one as well.
But the situation, it's like, and here's the thing, like when, what the funniest thing about that whole situation was that the final comedian, I introduced him, I go off stage and I'm sitting there in the back room and like five comics came up to me and they were like, "Hey dude, are you okay?" It's like, I'm like, guys, come on, it's comedy, it happens. And like they were trying to console me. It almost seemed like, that not some crazy person just, almost pie-faced me for a joke.
Yeah, but as if she slapped you.
It looked, even if she slapped me, if she had slapped me, that would have been better.
Yeah, I would like that.
Better. Yeah, so, and like I'm standing there, I'm like, guys, there was just some crazy bitch who didn't like my joke, and you make it look like I've killed somebody accidentally.
I think like what this makes this story sort of interesting in a way to me was that like I can like there is a conversation to be had if you made like a full-on rape joke and somebody with like sexual abuse experience got triggered by that, and like they would say something and then you would double down and do more rape jokes. That's kind of like you can have a conversation there, but literally, like you just mentioned porn and like that was the reaction, like, and that's just so weird because like there were so many different jokes, and to me the other weird part was that she was so chill. It wasn't like there was a girl who was sitting there getting more and more offended or just being really like looking contemptuous. It was like she was really chill, smiling, kind of laughing, and then bam, just in a second, and then she stormed off. That was really weird.
I actually think I talked to the bartenders after the show, and I was like, holy shit, I think I know why she did that. The bitch just didn't want to pay for the show. Because she stormed off, she hadn't paid for the show. I mean, so that was that was the thing that was funny to me. But anyhow, here's the thing, and I don't know. I'm pretty sure that not a lot of people share this opinion, yeah. But there are a couple of things in my head and in my understanding that, like I have regarding such situations. First of all, I think it's super fucking stupid to get upset at a joke at a comedy show. You know where you're going to. You're going to a comedy show. And yes, jokes can be offensive. Hello, stand-up comedy. Google people like Jimmy Carr, George Carlin. There are plenty of offensive jokes in there. So that's what I think. I think it's stupid to get offended at a joke. If that's an insult to you directly, if some comedian without any joke or without any context just tells you shut the fuck up, bitch, or just go kill yourself, or something like that, that's one thing, But when it's in the context of a joke, and like most of the room is laughing at that, why the fuck would you do that? I've never understood that about people. And if you were a grown-up person, you wouldn't spoil the show for everybody. You would just come to a comedian after the show and tell all of the complaints that you have after that. Because by doing that, first of all, you're spoiling the show to a lot of audience members, because for me, that was like nothing special. But a lot of audience, they got tense, like after that. Not every single time, they would see something like that.
Well, I think, just to play devil's advocate here, like the logic that I see behind it, is that it's not like a personal reaction of a person just trying to only sort of just tell you their opinion. I think it's sort of like activism, like a very half-baked activism where you're you want to not talk to the comedian and tell them that they are wrong, and so that they understand you, and you're sort of maybe not even expecting them to change it all, but what you wanted to do maybe is scream in front of all the people to show I am going to obstruct this show. I am going to make a scene here. I am going to make you uncomfortable. That's the point.
Maybe some assholes just want to ruin your day and make it all about themselves. But that's the first point. Yeah, the second point was, and that kind of adds up to what one of the audience members told me after the show. I don't know whether it was said seriously or not. The person, the emotions on the person's face seemed kind of, genuine. Mm-hmm. But they were oh, so now you're going to have to drop this joke. I was why the fuck would I do that? I am not any kind of fucking comedian who would bend over for the Vogue kind of person. To me, I have a very simple logic, and I keep telling that to every single comedian who gets on stage, right? And who comes to me for advice or something like that, or just to talk to me. If a joke is funny, whatever you say on stage, you can do whatever you want, as far as I'm concerned. You can say whatever you want, but it should be a joke. Because if it's not a joke, if it's an offense, or you're just proclaiming your political positions, for example, or positions in life, comedy show is not the place to do that. You can proclaim your political position, but then twist it into a joke, because this is a comedy show. This is not a protest, And yeah, people might say that there is a lot of protest in comedy. Yeah, of course, there is, but it has to be in the form of a joke. At a comedy show, again, when you're outside of that, do whatever you want. But at a comedy show, you have to do it in the form of a joke. That's why I never feel ashamed for any jokes that I say, that I tell from stage. And that's why I will never drop any kind of jokes. I have much harsher jokes, and you've heard them as well. So that's not the reason for me. And besides, when you, in my opinion, this is also the thing. When you go on stage, when you want to become a comedian, you want to stand out. You want to have your own personality in there. You don't want to be like every other comedian. You don't, because if you are okay with being just like most of the other comedians, who, for example, I've mentioned about that, who just write jokes very carefully, because they are too afraid to offend anyone with those jokes, or if you, I don't know, you're like, what, this is like an edgy topic, I don't want to joke about that because maybe I would get canceled for that, that just, in my, again, opinion, it just throws you into that mess of comedians who are too afraid to express their own mind in the form of a joke. I don't want to do that. I want to be me, on stage. And I want to tell any joke that I want to. If somebody doesn't like that, well, too bad. So what can I do? You will never be able to make like everybody laugh. But when you crack a joke and like you have 50 people in the room, 45 people laugh at that joke, and then somebody just didn't like it, why the fuck should you drop this joke? It's stupid.
Yeah, I'm like, it is a topic that is interesting to me. I feel like we're maybe doing more circles than we need to in terms of restating the arguments there. But like ultimately, I feel like comedy, like everything else, is like what it's a question of what do we want it to be, and it's not like it's obvious to me that there is no like truth that we're uncovering. There is though sort of like the overall sentiment. I believe that like comedy is offensive because ultimately people want it to be, basically, overall. And it's not that there's like a comedy god that if we listen closely, there's a gospel that we'll understand. Is that actually people do want it to be offensive, and they do want to have a space for offensive speech as well.
I think it's more about, being emotional. I think that people... I'm pretty sure about that, just based on my experience talking to different comedians. The way that they perform and the reasons why they perform, not a lot of people start doing that because they want to become professional comedians or anything like that. They have some kind of emotions, ideas that are very emotional, and they want to express these emotions in a sarcastic way, in a comedic way, to share it with everybody else, and to laugh at that, of course, because why do people why when we joke about some pretty intimate and personal topics, why do we have people laugh at that? Most of the times, it's not that people are laughing at your experience; they're laughing as a nod of approval. Yeah, that's actually that, but.
What's the connection? Like, I'm not sure. Like as we're talking, like, okay, we have a moment of, okay, there's a girl who's like, gets sort of over the top and shouts at you that you shouldn't be doing this and storms off. So what you said things. You said that you dislike when comedians don't want to do something because it might be edgy. Or because it might get them canceled, for example.
It's a little bit different, because once a comedian becomes like a sort of a brand or established, and comedian starts having more eyes on them, right? Then they are like, okay, maybe I should kind of, like watch out for what I'm saying there. Especially when you start getting like TV deals or something like that, but that's like too far-fetched in this conversation particularly.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm trying, it's that, it's not that I dislike the conversation, but I sort of realized that like once we started talking about the situation, and like when I'm listening to you, I feel like I'm floating. I feel like I'm not really tethered to anything, like I'm not grounded, because there's... kind of like there are a lot of figures of like some kind of abstract people came in.
Then let me define that. Yeah, what do I hate about comedians? When they start doing that, they want to express their own emotions on stage, right? In a way that would laugh, that they would laugh like at the problems and stuff like that.
Basically, you're saying that you are like that.
But after that, after some time of being on stage, they start listening to people who'll be like, you know what, maybe you shouldn't say that, maybe you shouldn't say this, because people might not like it, and so on and so forth. And they start having this setup in their heads.
I guess my problem is that so I realize now that's like I don't know anybody like that. So maybe it's a lack of experience on my part, but that's why I am like feeling very.
It only takes one such occasion, one such situation, like what we've just described with this girl, to start to put the seed into a comedian's mind that maybe I shouldn't joke.
So you're saying that you have had experience where comedians that you know would get some criticism like that, and they would change their identity as comedians.
They would start adapting to that. And the funniest thing is that criticism comes usually from like 1, 2, maybe 3 people in the audience that day.
But I kind of hear that sort of the fact that those comedians changed made you very bitter somehow, like because you're the emotion that you're.
Yeah, because I feel that that's betraying yourself. That's not you. When you start adjusting your material based on the opinions of other people, I think that is betraying yourself on stage.
So so there are some people who who betrayed themselves, in your opinion.
No, but betrays is a pretty loud word,
Okay.
Just in my opinion. That's what it is like, right? I hate when such situations happen, when you have 50 people in the room, 3 people did not like your joke. They would tell you about that and you'll be like, shit, I shouldn't say that. And that gets to you, especially when you are new in comedy,
Like it never happened to me, and I don't think it would get to me though.
You still haven't had your crazy girl who would stand up and tell you that joke about you ear fucking your dog.
It was not me you're fucking my dog. It was the dog walker.
Yeah, dog walker fucking your dog is offensive as fuck. It's against animal rights.
I had those conversations in private where people would be like, that joke that you told, I don't think you should joke like that.
Well, fuck them. Fuck those people.
But no, so there's the difference basically. I don't feel that basically, especially in personal conversation, as compared to going out on stage, where okay, we have a conversation and I'm making a joke and somebody's telling me that they're not comfortable with me making those jokes in our conversation, and that's the moment where we negotiate how are we going to proceed. Are we going to continue? Because it's, in a way, it's not as easy as so fuck them. Because we share some territory, we share some social space. Maybe it's like a colleague, and maybe 95% of our conversations are completely different contexts, and we have 5% of informal.
No, I'm not saying to tell them to go fuck themselves. No,
did you think?
Fuck them. I'm talking about their opinion about this particular joke. When they're like, maybe you shouldn't do that joke. I'm like, who the fuck are you to tell me what I should do? That's the thing. It's, in my opinion, that is the type of influence that people start having on you on stage. And it's a minority.
This is an interesting part. So what I kind of hear, you're mad. What makes you mad is somebody not only telling you what to do, but thinking that they have the right to tell you what to do.
And my problem is when such people, when they're like, okay, I don't love this joke, but they cannot objectively. Well, I mean, comedy is a subjective thing, yeah, but still, when you have 50 people in the room and you're the only one, or you're one of the 3 people who didn't like that joke, and you feel that you need to tell a comedian that, you know what, the 3 of us did not like that joke. Maybe you shouldn't say that joke. Maybe go fuck yourself with that opinion. I don't want people like that affecting me on stage. And I think that this is a problem for a lot of especially like rookie comedians who just it's their first, their second, their third year on stage. Such people can influence that, and I've seen that happening before. You know, we wouldn't see right now examples like that from professional comedians because things like that they happen very early on in your comedy.
I'm trying
routine.
to just unearth like why do you care? Like you say, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't care, but you just you say like this, I don't like this, and I'm trying to get like why, like.
I hate seeing opinions of these people changing the comedians
Why?
for the worst.
Why?
Because I love comedy, and I love personalities, dude. It's like in stand-up, like at least in Russian stand-up, you know, every single person that has ever attended a Russian show, they would tell you, oh, there have been like 20 comedians and 15 of them had the same type of delivery, the same type of jokes, and so on and so forth, and yada, yada, yada. And then there would be like 5 people who they would remember. I don't want people to just comedians to bend over to some opinions, because I want to see these unique people on stage. I want to see their unique perspective on stage.
So you love uniqueness of somebody's comedy perspective so much that it brings out sort of like hate in you when somebody does something that might damage that uniqueness.
Yep. In my opinion, that's the thing. That is the thing.
It's just interesting to me, like, because just the type and the level of emotion you express here, because like I mostly agree with everything you say, but I really don't have this like this really intense and in a way like vulnerable like trigger point here.
I've seen that happening at least to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rookie comedians over the 7 years that I've been doing that. And I've seen how that affected them, how that influenced them, you know. And it's like, you know, it's like when you know what a person can do, you know, it's kind of like, you know, when you see a performer, like a comedian or any performer, like starting on stage, you know, and you enjoy their comedy, and you're like, yeah, that's this person, that's you, you know, like when you go and do your shit, on stage, never want to call
it's
it
definitely shit.
When you go and you do your routine, I enjoy it. You sound unique. Your delivery is unique. Your perspective of jokes. I think that I said that previous
You've been
time.
sucking my dick a lot recently.
You too. Just go back to the beginning of this podcast. So, like I said, that your way of comedy, you know, of writing, it reminds me of Louis C.K. a lot. Just that vibe. I kind of get that kind of vibe, you know, and I enjoy it. That makes you stand out, you know, from everybody else. And I'm like, shit, I don't see that all the time, you know.
And that's
on
so.
stage.
Let's say somebody would, in my first shows, come up to me and like, you should never talk about Jesus like that. That would be made much more sense than the porn thing. Actually, is like because it is debatable, and I would be like, oh my god, I'm never making vagina Jesus jokes again.
I would tell that person to fuck off. I've done that before.
I'm making the thought experiment of you not being able to protect me, and so this happens, and it corrupts me, and I can no longer be unique, and you only can helplessly watch as another comedy talent gets stomped into the ground.
I would, at this point, with my experience that I've seen, that I've had, I would come to them and be like, dude, what happened? Like, why did you change? I would ask that question. Why did you change that? You know? And probably what I would do, I would probably say something more emotional. I was like, why isn't that you? You know? Why isn't that you on stage? That's I see.
It does sound to me like this even this thought experiment is kind of unbearable for you. Like I can kind of, because
I hate it. Yeah, I hate when something like that happens.
Interesting. It is interesting because I still, like, we talked about this for a long time now. Still, I have no idea
Oops, sorry.
why you care this much about this. And it's okay. Maybe I'll learn about it sometime down the road.
It's, I mean, like, I don't have, it goes down, like, if you want to turn on psychology here, yeah? I don't have a lot of things in this life that I get satisfaction from, moral satisfaction from. Comedy is one of those things, because if it wasn't for comedy, I would have gone nuts, I think, a long time ago. I have seen people, like my wife, for example, losing something that they love due to the circumstances, like their hobbies. My wife used to do vocals. She used to be in several bands, and she enjoyed that. When she sings, every time, like when she has like this vibe that she want to sing, it's so beautiful, and I can see that this is what she loves. This is what brings her to life, And when our daughter was born, and she fell into this clinical depression, and she's been suffering from that for the past 4 years. She just can't do that. She just can't. She can't, put herself together and do that. And that's been killing her from the inside. And we've talked about that. And yes, this is it. I've seen, like people losing that. And I was afraid to lose that as well. And this is why I'm so emotional about that, because comedy for me is just one of those things, like I don't have any kind of, hopes that I will become like a popular comedian or this will be my job or something like that. No, it's not going to happen. I know that. But this is one of those things that I enjoy in this life, and I hold very dear to my heart. And I do understand why it would sound like too emotional, like, dude, why do you care so much about that? Yeah. But this is just because this is one of those things that I hold very dear to me. I love watching comedy, and like, when I do the shows, yeah, I host these shows, I announce a comedian, yeah, I don't just go to the back, and like, okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes. No, I'll stand there and I'll listen to that because I love comedy. I love jokes. And I would be one of the loudest laughing people in there with my fucking laughter, like like that fucking Jimmy Carr type of laughter. Yeah, and this is why I'm so emotional about that. I have this kind of passion for stand-up comedy because it's been one of those things that's been keeping me sane. And, like, it goes even deeper than that. We're going back to what I said at the beginning of this podcast, like when I was like, I started writing, and now I feel better.
Yeah.
Like, even though this is just a hobby, however you look at this, in my position, this is just a hobby, and it will probably not go any further than that, realistically speaking. But this is what makes me feel alive in a lot of ways. It can seem like an obsession. Maybe that is, but it's not like I'm gonna be killing all of those people, like, or ruining the lives of young comedians. No.
You are saying, so comedy is something that makes life worth living. Like one of those things.
To me.
To you.
Personally,
well,
to me.
Yeah, of course. Not only to you, I think. Like, I can attest from the other side of this table.
Well, imagine being a grumpy person who just won't laugh ever. I think that, life is not very fun.
Just even specifically doing comedy, like, is something that, in my opinion, is one of those things that makes life worth living for me as well. So that's something that we can connect on.
I still feel nervous every single time that I go on stage. I've been doing this for 7 years. I don't care how many people there are. I don't care what kind of a show it is. I don't want to have a bad show. I don't want to have a bad show. I want to have a good show, and that's why I'm nervous every single time.
That's like that, but that's the thing, because at the same time I feel like I resonate with you quite a lot. At the same time, at some points, I feel like I'm just can't understand you sometimes, and there are like these tension points.
That's like the difference in perception, the difference in experience. When one person would be very passionate, almost like from the side, seemingly obsessive with something, the other person would be like, "Why is that so? I don't get it."
Let me. I want to actually get into it, in a way. But I feel like you and me, we share some of the values, the core values that go in there. Like you telling me that your wife, for her, like singing is like that, is very relatable to me. And like one of the important things is I realized that for different people, different things are those things that make life worth living. And like it feels to me like you and me both, and your wife, and like I know, like my sister and a lot of my friends are some of those people for whom to perform and to create something actually is very meaningful. And that's not everybody.
I would say that the majority of people are not probably like that.
But I do really care for and respect people for whom, like, for example, working with their hands feels very meaningful.
Of course.
Or like creating a safe community space where everybody can come in and have like a family feeling is very meaningful. Or just like, actually, it's incredible to me when I see people who like building products, for example, like IT products, and they want them to work well and they want the technology to be beautiful, and it is very meaningful to them. Like it's almost insane. I did not believe it was true, but then I talked to people, I realized, oh fuck, this guy feels about programming the same way I feel about performing. For the longest time, I thought that's just not true. Like I felt like everybody else was just like not realizing how much they want to perform. And I'm just like, come on guys, you want to perform, stop doing all this shit. But turned out it's not true. Like turned out people have different meaningful feelings. But what I hear from what you're saying, there's like this huge fear of it breaking, like of the comedy identity breaking, or of the like here like the singing identity. It's like breaking. It's and I'm trying to like, why does it have to break? Like what is the danger? Like how can it be broken?
I mean, how a comedy identity can be broken by influence from the outside.
So you're like, so something can corrupt from the outside.
Of course, it can. Just like everything in this life. Of course. It can corrupt because there are some people who would be, standing their ground for what they believe in, and then there would be people who'd be like, like there would be pretty impressionable towards other people's opinions.
But like here's the thing, like where we're, I guess, approaching it. At this point, I'm like, the thing I would be kind of dying to do is help the impressionable person to build the core to stop being so impressionable. Basically, like when I imagine a situation where there's like a girl who's like, oh, never joke like that, fuck you, this sucks. Like my emotions do not follow her. Like I'm not like, oh, this sucky person.
I think I know where you're leading with that. Yeah, I wouldn't give a shit about her core and what because when you do it like that, up in my face, no talking with you. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure you're following what I wanted to say.
But okay, so finish. Yeah, maybe I just.
I'm saying I'm not following her. Like there's like, let's say there's a person I care about just because he's a comedian like me, and I really value it. And there's a girl who does that. Like, I feel like in this situation, like what I hear from you is like you get very angry at her and at the people there. Yep. But what I feel at that moment is like, immediately I want to come up to the person who had this happen to, and I'm like, how are you feeling? Like, what's up? I really care about how this person will sort of like become stronger from that, so that he'll get the damage.
No, of course, no.
It is of course, but your reaction goes towards the outside that came in, and you're angry, and you're afraid that it will break the thing that's valuable. And I'm trying to understand why, because I'm like, but to me, this value, it's so strong that if I just honestly look at it, and I tell this person to honestly look inside themselves, they will never be like corrupted by that ever. Like it's not gonna even touch them.
No, of course we talk to comedians who such shit happens to. afterwards. Of course, we do that.
I just wonder about you, basically. It's not about the overall how it happens. I just wonder, like, because you also said that in this same thing, you're like, it might break, and you have in this same bucket, you have like, I know I will not become a professional comedian. And I'm like, and when I hear that, both of those things, I'm like, why the fuck are you so sure? Like, that you won't be? And why are you angry at these things attacking from the outside? It's like, and I'm not saying like, oh, you're definitely going to be like a professional comedian and stuff like that. But
would
it's
be
like,
nice if that happens. I mean,
but that's weird to me, because like the things that break you happen from the outside, and the things that would make you a professional comedian happen from the outside. But I think that's just really not the way that works. Like, seems to me like they both happen from the inside.
You just haven't had that kind of experience just before. That's the thing.
Which one?
How the opinions of other people make comedians, in particular, bend over and change who they are on stage, not for the better, and lose themselves on stage. That's the thing.
Eminem.
Mm-hmm. Yep, lose yourself. Yeah.
in the haters' music, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that. No, I get the idea. You're basically, if we talk about me here, you're basically trying to say that, there is a correlation there. You know, that the thing that I'm saying about myself, that I will never become a professional comedian, that affects from the outside, and that's why I'm so angry when I see such situations. Is that the thing?
Not really. I'm just observing that they somehow came in together. Like, and there are moments like when we're talking, and usually you and me, we will hit a snag. Like, we will hit a moment where like we had a conversation that was kind of, oh, cool, we're vibing. And then I'll be like, oh, I want to do something, and I'm going to do like a grand thing. And you're like, nobody wants to see this. Nobody cares about it. This is shit. And you will recoil from me, and we will have like the end of the conversation there.
Not right now.
Not right now. No. Yeah.
I don't even remember those types of conversations.
Well, it's kind of like
probably it happened. Yeah.
It's kind of like
never paid attention to that.
If I mention something, like here's like what my guidebook on talking with you that I have from talking to you several times, is that I shouldn't, if I want our conversation to go well, I shouldn't mention that you're good at comedy, like that you're better than the very only thing we just done. Like, if I can tell that you're a good host, I should never mention that I feel like, oh man, I can only imagine how good you will be like this or like that.
No, dude. I mean, like, I have very good self-awareness. I am one of the best English-speaking comedians that live in this city.
Sure, but I'm just like, if I try to suggest something like, oh, you could do this, I think, or with a little bit, this could be done, or like, I would, for example, I don't know, like, I would be very wary of saying like, oh, I think if you made like a video on YouTube and it would gather like views, because like you have good bits, you could make that.
Oh shit, I have so many recordings of myself on stage. I need just to have time and energy to do that.
Maybe, like, I don't know, maybe I am like hallucinating some things, but I definitely do feel like there is this real like tension there, because I don't know, I realized about myself what I want. Like, I've been thinking about like, what does it mean like to be a professional, stuff like that. By the way, funny thing, being a professional comes from profitare, from Latin.
That's the when I was talking to my wife once, I was like, we talked about like, what does it mean to be a professional, and we started talking about comedy, and she was like, the moment you started getting paid to do that, that is when you basically can tell yourself that you have become a professional.
But like, what I want to say, that the Latin origin of the word, it's self-calling. So professional is someone who called himself something. So that's literally, you're a professional when you call yourself a professional, just from the origin of the word.
That's true, yeah. And whenever like people would ask me, like I would never say that I'm a professional comedian in this sense of the word, because I haven't done or I don't have an opportunity to do something. But like what in my head, yeah, what is a professional comedian? It's not like doing shows once or twice a week, yeah. You have to constantly be on stage, because that way you get more experience, you get more confident, you find yourself on stage, you write more material and stuff like that. Then you might get an opportunity to, I don't know, to be at like some kind of late night show, you know, a traditional way of a comedian, basically, right? And stuff like that. Maybe, and that is something that happened to me actually recently. You might start being approached by some people who are like, "Hey, can you do like a comedy like spot for money?" You know, I'll be like, "Yeah, sure, of course."
Yeah, that's good.
Fucking, of course, yeah. Let's do that. Unfortunately, that thing fell apart because they didn't get.
Like 2 out of 3 such things actually fell apart.
Yeah.
It's from show business goodness.
Yeah. And it's always like I'm trying to grab like every single opportunity that I have to do something more in comedy. Like they're like the guys at the Purgatory stand-up club, the Russian guys. Yeah, they were like, "Oh, we want to do like the dirty talk show." I was like, "Let's do this." You're kidding me, you know? Like it's like, of course. I suck at developing stories, you know, like basically like that. So yeah, let's try this. This is one of the spheres. I want to do this, you know. Fucking more time on stage, you know. Who cares about that? If you get more time on stage, right? So yeah, that kind of that. But there is in my head there is like a particular definition of what it means to be a pro comedian. Yeah. Do I want to get there if I have a chance? Of course. Of course. But I need to live in another place to do that. But you can do something to kind of bring that moment closer to you, yeah? Like what you're doing, for example. YouTube, of course. We have examples of comedians getting, you know, like exposure due to YouTube. Like Andrew Schultz, I think, would be the best example of that.
Well, Josh Johnson recently doing a really new kind of thing.
Yeah, even the guys at Bukhari Stand-Up Club, they have their own YouTube channel. They post videos there, you know. This is what you need to do if you want to have like your name exposed, right? Even with the minimum resources, you know, go fucking TikTok, you know, like 20-second clips, 30-second clips. Do that, you know. At some point, quantity will turn into quality. Well, I mean, in terms of exposure, yeah. It's just consistency, you know. You need to be consistent with that. But there's definitely, and this is one of the reasons why I probably am pretty harsh towards like the outside factors, you know, that affect comedians. There are plenty of, I wouldn't say outside factors, but inside factors that are, you know, like stopping me from dedicating more time to that. You know, I have family. I am the only person who works, you know, and I have to work my ass off, like basically work every single day to support my family's life. And that takes away the time that I could potentially put into comedy, you know, like, and stuff like that. So that's also the thing. It's all interconnected, definitely, of course, you know. So yeah, that's the way that it is. And I've lost the fucking, what do you call it? I've lost the thread of conversation.
It's okay. I think I have it here. Somewhere. It's like I have several different sort of like feelings towards you, because at the same time, like I feel very grateful for like you guys, you and Dasha, and like you specifically, like holding down the space for comedy to exist here in Tbilisi. Because it's kind of a barren wasteland for English-speaking comedy here.
Unfortunately.
And it takes a lot of, like, it gave me a lot so that you did that. It actually gave me a lot because I was, like, if there was not there, if you guys weren't there, if you, Kirill, weren't there, I wouldn't get any of that comedy practice. I wouldn't get any of that introduction to this whole thing. So I wouldn't have any of those amazing feelings that I got. And that really means a lot to me. So thank you. Actually, like, you are the reason I get to have those amazing feelings like that. And that's not nothing. That's actually a giant, that's a giant investment. That's a giant favor you guys did, basically.
No, thank you.
That is very important. Like, it is very important to me. Like, and I do love you for it. Like, it is great that you do that.
I feel but coming.
There is
a but coming.
There is also there is and like I feel several feelings. There is a lot of gratitude. There's a lot of love, and there is sort of like I feel some like it feels almost like anger, and it's not even like empathetic hurt, because when I sort of like I start vibing with you, I start feeling hurt from kind of like from just from the facial expressions that you make. Because like when I'm starting to dream out loud, and you just hurt very much when I do that. Even when it's like very dumb dreams, like that are very foolish, but still very important to have. And I'm like, oh fuck, man, why does this hurt so much when I dream out loud with Kirill? Why does it feel so bad? Like, it's just like, and it's like wow, like, and I feel like it's not my, like, it's not the thing that came from me from the inside, and I'm like, I wonder why is that like that, and it's and that just makes me very sad. Like it's not a but, it's like I am very grateful, and I'm sad, like as I kind of feel for you and for like it's really hard, the situation you're in, and it's really difficult, the things that you need to do, and that you decided that you will do.
Priorities in life, you know.
That is heavy.
Yep. Yep. Had I not had family, for example, I think that things would have been much more different. Oops. Things would have definitely been much more different. That's why I tell every single person, if you have any ambitions in life, do not have kids. It's not the right time to do that.
I think...
And stuff like that.
Maybe, just maybe, there are still ways to build shit.
No, of course there are. I mean, there are, yeah. Just have to put your priorities, you know, into it. But most of the times, you might just not have any energy to do that.
True,
you know?
it's true.
I, in order to make myself write something, I was like, okay, one joke a day. You know, going back to what I talked about earlier. Yeah, one joke a day. And my friend, who I knew would poke me every day to do that. And he did. And thank him for that. But thank you if you're listening. Whenever you're going to come to Tbilisi, motherfucker, and do the show here. I mean, like, I want to record a 1 hour solo. And I want you to be there for me. And to open up for me. Not because I think that you're worse, but because you're fucking my best friend in comedy and I love you. That's the thing. Yeah, talking about plans. I want to, in 2024, I want to record like a solo show.
That's a great one.
That's one thing that I want to do. And we just need to find, like, you know, the place we have, you know, but would be much better if that would have been like... At a stand-up club, but I'm talking to Russian guys right now about that. Yeah,
to go to Bukhara, you mean?
Yeah, and to do something there. It's gonna be pretty tough to do, you know, because you have a Russian who's like, oh, Russian guy performing in English, you know, and stuff like that. So from the attraction standpoint, it might be difficult to attract people there, you know. But this is something that I want to do. Because I want to, like, these 7 years that I've had, I want to put them together and I want to make, like, a giant, giant piece of shit. No, I don't even know how to call it. It's not a full stop because it's not like I'm going to drop comedy after that, you know. But it's just, like, the summary of everything that I have done, right? In comedy for the past 7 years, how I've grown there, and this is like I want to do this, you know, like Jerry Seinfeld when he did He was originally a stand-up comic, and then he had this sitcom called Seinfeld, right? And after the sitcom finished, that was the point where he was like, okay, I'm going back to the drawing board. You know, like I'm gonna fuck everything before. I'm not gonna use that material, right? I want to focus on growing further, you know. But to do that, you have to have that point, you know, that would be the summary of everything that you have done, you know, because that would help you also see how much you've grown, how much you've improved as a comedian, moving on to the next stop. You know?
To say goodbye,
Yeah, that's why I want to do this, you know. I want to do this. The next stop for me, and this is something that I really hope that I will be able to do in the next few years, go to Fringe.
Fringe?
Fringe, yep, in Edinburgh. It's a cultural festival.
Oh, the festival. I know about it, yeah.
I want to go to Fringe first as just a comedian, because like when Fringe is going, there are like so many open mics there, you know, like every day, 3 open mics per day where you can go. I want to go there. I want to like work my ass off performing at the shows. And then the next time that I go to Fringe, you know, I want to go there with a solo show, you know, because this is typically what comedians do. Because the first time you go there, you get a feeling out process, you know, how it all works and so on and so forth. Next time you go there with your solo show. That's what I want to do. Sometimes you might get unlucky. Like one of my friends who's been to Fringe like 3 times or 4 times, and he has like 3 different shows. Oleg, his name is, and like I think the last one of the previous times that he went to Fringe, this was like his 4th time, and he had his solo show. They gave him the spot at like some bar, which is like underground bar, you know, at 11 a.m. And he did. It was actually very nice when you hear him talk about that. How for 30 days, every single day at 11 a.m. he had this solo show, and at first was like 1 person, 2 people, 3 people. By the end of this, there were like 45 people there in this bar, you know, fully packed, and like. I'm listening to that. That's like, and I'm thinking to in my head, that's the logical next stop I want to do. You know, I want to go there. I want to see that I'm good enough. I think that I'm good enough for that. I need to prove that. That's what I need to do. Now the problem is like, how do I get there? Of course, because to go to Britain you need a visa, right? And it's not like I want to go back to Russia right now. There are some, let's just call them official reasons as well why I don't want to go back there, right? And you can get a visa if you get a residence permit, right? But Georgia, thank you for not giving me that, right? And I could get it if I move to another country, but I don't have money to do that. Plus, moving your entire family just because of your own wish to get a visa, that's not a very, you know, logical thing to do in terms of your family. That's like you want to do that. You're not your family. So I don't know how I do that or when I do that, but I will do that. You know, it doesn't matter when it will be. Next year, in 10 years, maybe, you know, I don't care. You know, it doesn't really matter how old you are when you go on stage.
Sure.
You know? We have comedians like of so many ages. We have like, I think 19, 20-year-old comedians. We have like 40-plus-year-old comedians, you know, like performing. So yeah, but these are the things that I want to do. I want some things to accomplish in comedy before I kick the bucket, so to speak.
Hearing all that makes me a lot more happy. Sort of like, it's like yeah, like I'm like, yeah, do that. Like, it's just like, it's really... you say that you want these things for yourself, and I feel like I want these things for you as well. Like, I'm kind of rooting for you. So like, if there is this feeling of like, I care about comedy and I care about people who care about comedy, and it's like I have you as a senpai right now, because like I came in here, I'm like, okay, this guy told me how to perform, gave me feedback on my first show, and like I'm like, okay, like, and I care about you and your comedy path. It is important, And so I really don't want, like, the way you don't want to, this is kind of close. The way you are very emotional about people attacking, corrupting, or somehow breaking comedians from the outside, I feel a lot of emotion for you saying things like you're not going to be able to do stuff, you're not going to be able to grow, or you don't believe in yourself, or something that resembles that. I'm like, why? Like, why, man? Like,
there's just certain limitations at the moment, you know. I know it's gonna pass by, you know. I can wait for like another 10 years. I don't care if I go to Fringe like when I'm 40 years old, you know. I will be able to do that. It's not a matter of time for me. I don't feel like I'm wasting opportunities with my age. Of course not. You know, like, I mean, even if you want to talk objectively in comedy, George Carlin became a popular comedian when he was 40 plus, you know, already. So the age is not a factor here. Cancer might be, you know, if I get it and I die because of it, you know, I won't be able to do any of that shit. But at the same time, sometimes I'm thinking like, oh, if I get cancer, I'm gonna joke this shit to the ground.
To the grave, you mean?
Yeah, to the grave. Yeah, and no one will be able to tell me that you can't joke about that. I'm like, fuck you, I have cancer. You know, I can't joke about that. So yeah, of course, there are things that I want to accomplish in comedy. There are things. There are certain limitations that prevent me from doing that right now, but it's all gonna go away eventually. You know, just like, you know, going on a broader thing. You know, I want to go back to Russia. Mm-hmm. This is my home. And I feel like I was deprived of my home, you know, and I want to go back there. It's my home. It's a great place. You know, Moscow is a fucking awesome city. And I want to go back there, and I will go back there. And I always go as far as to tell people that my life is going to end in Russia, hopefully from natural causes. But still, it's because I want to go back there, you know, and the same way I feel about, like, you know, accomplishing some goals in comedy. I will do that. I want to do it, and I will do that. It's just a matter of time. Right now, not the right time to do that because of certain limitations, but they will go away, you know, or something will happen, or I will do something to bypass those limitations finally. And yeah, that's about it.
That's what I love to hear. You know? Like that's really the point of view and the mindset that like makes me kind of happy.
Yeah, and you know, in the meantime, what can I do for comedy? I just write more stuff, perform, you know, take as many opportunities as I can. You know, and stuff like that, and that's it. You know, there is always, like, you know, when you feel that there is no way to grow for you, you can come up with the, like, on stage, you know, like in our position, right? For example, we have like 1-2 shows per week, you know, on a good week. And you're like...
More like one every 2 weeks.
Yeah. And you're like thinking like, okay, but there is like, I can only accomplish so much. And that's true, you know, like you need to have more shows to get better. But then again, there are always goals that you can set for yourself. You know, you can always challenge yourself. Like, for example, in terms of how much good material you want to write, you know, like back 3 years ago was the time when we opened our own stand-up club in Moscow, and we started doing shows 3 times per week, and then we started doing mini tours to other towns in Russia. I was like, I will write 5 good minutes every month. You know, that was the goal. I was like, because I want to be noticed, you know, I want to go on those tours. It wasn't me who was choosing, you know, people to go. And I was like, I need to show myself, you know, if I want to do that. And that's achievable, you know, like I can sit there, I can make it work. And
I feel like one of the other things, like where we came to here from is like the positive feelings are good and they do help. I feel like with the negative stuff that kind of like lurks around, it usually kind of is there somewhere, like in the
like that retarded part of my
like
brain.
yeah, but the retarded part of your brain is the thing that's about you thinking, and the fear is more somewhere around the belly. It's somewhere under the heart, and it's sort of there, and like it's kind of like not leaving because it seems sort of unbearable.
I used to have this kind of thing, back in the day, again, when we started doing like these mini tours and we started booking like stand-up store in Moscow or stand-up club number 1, doing paid shows there. The comedians would get paid, participating at bigger shows. And I was like, okay, I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to write as much material as I can, as good as I can, and I will get noticed. But they kept ignoring me, and at one point I was like, you know what? Fuck off. I'm not going to wait anymore. There was this thing that, I shouldn't ask for anything. And I was like, wait a minute, why shouldn't I ask? I'm good enough for that. Besides, like some of I had this chip on my shoulder, when I was like, those comedians who they're picking, I'm better than they are. I had this thing. I needed to have that thing because I was thinking like, maybe I'm not good enough. No, I am fucking good enough. And at that point, I started like approaching them. I was like, hey, I heard you're doing this show. I want to be on it. Just like I was like, I want to be on it. I'm not going to wait for you to ask me to do that. I'm coming here and where are the napkins? So yeah. Like I come right now to you and ask for that shit because I think I deserve it. That's it. Started working, as magical as it may sound.
I'm talking. I'm talking about the story about the girl.
Yeah.
And the things that like might just
bite you,
break the very important life-giving thing.
Yeah.
Like break this life-giving comedy identity, or life-giving singing, or like any other thing that just makes life worth living.
There was this thing. Sorry for interrupting you. There was also this thing. At one point, we like when we finally started having like a community in Moscow, like English comedy community. We started coming together for workshops, and there were a couple of comedians who were much more experienced than we were. And we were workshopping, they were like, oh, this joke could work like this joke could work like that, and I'm writing it down and I'm performing with that, but I'm like, this doesn't work for me. And then like it hit me. I know it sounds obvious, but when you're in the process of that, it doesn't seem very obvious to you. And then it hit me. This is not mine. The guy suggested an idea and basically told me his punchline to my premise. It's not me. It's not my idea with a punchline. And that's why I felt so uncomfortable on stage telling those jokes, and stuff like that. There's a very thin line in there when somebody gives you an idea where this could go to, like my best friend, Abed, when we workshop, and I tell him an idea, and he was like, but what do you mean by that? So he starts like digging into me, like go deeper. He doesn't give me a punchline, he knows how my brain works, and he goes like, go deeper here, try to get deeper. What does it mean? Can you like elaborate on that? This idea is very interesting. Why, and you're jumping back and forth, and it's a whole different idea when a person just gives you the punchline,
What do you mean by that, actually?
No, you're like a punchline.
I mean like you went to the story of you trying to get somebody else's punchline and use it as a sort of like felt like as a response.
It didn't feel natural. It wasn't me,
I'm saying like it's as a response to what I was saying, and I'm trying to find the connection of like Is it a response or is it like a
no,
parallel?
I was just I went into the direction of like you how it can change you, and what can change you on stage. That idea.
You're continuing the things that might corrupt you because you're not true to yourself.
Yeah,
that's the theme.
Kind of like that. It's just like so that to give more. To elaborate more,
give more meat to this idea.
More meat to this idea. In my particular case, why am I so sensible towards that? And that's the thing.
Well, that's like more, cool. That's more details of like how it happened or how it can happen. But like it's what I believe about these things is like that you can almost have this fear by itself as like a snake. It's like that can sort of manifest in different things, but the level of how it feels is actually just coming from you.
Right now, it's more reflection, because I know that nothing will change the way that I am on stage. 7 years has been more than enough for me to understand who I am on stage, what do I want to do, how I want to write, how I want to deliver. And you can kind of tell that even with the new jokes that I write. Yeah, it's like me. When you hear those jokes, when you hear me on stage, it's like that's him. Like that's him. I get that, and that's what makes me in that way, unique. Makes me maybe even stand out. There was one very interesting thing that happened, I think, about a year ago to me, but that wasn't like me or not me, that was just a fun fact. When people were like plenty of people told me, dude, your humor is pretty dark. It's like, and I was like, really? It's like, really? That is dark? So I was like, I kept thinking that I'm one of the cleanest comedians possible, and stuff like that. And all of a sudden people are like, you're pretty dark in your comedy, and stuff like that. But maybe that's also the thing that, and again, anger, like what you've mentioned. Anger is what originally brought me into comedy. I had anger, because how I used to write jokes when I was just establishing myself on stage, I felt angry. There were some things that I felt were stupid or angry. That you would read something, you'll be like, what the fuck, stupid kind of dumb shit is this? And stuff like that. That is what gave me ideas to write, back then. Right now, it's a lot more self-irony, sarcasm, and stuff like that, because I feel like that you should have met me like 4 years ago. I used to be much angrier than right now. And right now, that kind of anger has accumulated, perhaps, in what we are talking about right now, that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Period. It's like this, it's like I'm trying to catch this like intangible thing that I'm like, okay, it moves here, it moves here, it moves here. Just gotta catch it. And don't know how to explain it well. Is like you have a lot of experience of what things you can do and what things make you strong and what things you can really build yourself up with. I feel like maybe, though, something that's screwing with you a little is not the things that you know how to deal with, but just this, like darkness in the corners. I feel that I need to have, maybe I even need to have something like that, because it's very difficult to, I think that, so like I've said right now, like I started with that, and this was the foundation for me to begin with, yeah? And it's only logical that I want to keep it, unintentionally probably, yep, but still, want to keep a part of that, just to,
The fear is great when it's behind you.
Kind of like that.
Because it moves you forward.
Yeah, kind of like that.
And it's awful when it somehow manages to get ahead of you.
Yeah.
Because then you're like,
you start questioning yourself, am I good enough to do that? Should I really do that? Like, I don't know, I might shit myself and stuff like that. It's like there are some very simple examples of that when fear is in front of you. It's when a comedian, like usually a rookie comedian, they're like, okay, I need to try some new material tonight at the show, but the closer their cue is, the more they start thinking, shit, maybe the people will not like my jokes, okay, I'll go with my old material, and as a result, they're just postponing testing out this material, and then they might not even use it, they might forget about the jokes that they wrote and wanted to try, It's just an example of how fear is like in front of you and that kind of thing.
Like, I don't know, years. Let me just. I guess I can move the spotlight away from you for a little bit. So
Mr. Therapist, you're my therapist today. Like
it's true. I do. Like, I am using some things from the bag of a therapist here.
I hear those things. So been to therapy. Should actually go back there. There are some problems that I need to work on.
That's the thing I realized recently about. So I was thinking, what are my values? What am I trying to do? And I finally managed to formulate it. Is that the things that I care about are wellness and entertainment, mostly mental wellness, basically, and because those things are the guiding principles of everything that I do. So I love entertainment because it gives me sort of like health, and it helped me go through very hard times. And sort of like, and I love the getting better because it allows me to enjoy life more. So those are like healing and enjoying. That's like, those are the things that I care about. And I sort of like, something clicked, I guess. It's a little abstract, but I was wondering about that for a long time. And I was thinking that why does it feel so weird for me to try and jump into making money off of entertainment, just only entertainment? And I realized it's not exactly what I want. Like, it's that there is a certain satisfaction for me to work a job. Well, it's pretty close. It's still like, it's entertainment and stuff. It's marketing. And to then go and try to create something. And that feels good. But like, I asked myself, like, so what do I want to do? I realized, and here, I feel embarrassed to tell you that, because like, this is kind of scary, because I am scared of judgment as well. But I still want to share with you, like, I felt like, so what would be worth doing? Like, it would be really worth doing it if I managed to be like one of the best comedians of my time, basically. And I thought, like, well, that's very abstract. What do you mean? And I realized my picture of this is like, not the money, not the everything. If I like made a good like video, like a special, like even if it's like 30 minutes, doesn't matter. And if it gets like, I don't know, 1 million, 2 million views, and the comments are not like, oh, what a smart ploy he made us come here for, but the comments are like, man, this was really funny. There's like, this is really good. I really like it. That would be for me like, oh, that's what I want. And that motivates me. Now, like, I just formulated it, like, I feel like a week ago. And before that, I was like, oh, how do I turn this into a career? How do I like make money off my podcast? And I know a lot about it, and it feels like mudfucking to me. Getting sponsors, planning, scheduling like content in advance, getting Dollar Shave Club, getting BetterHelp, getting all those things.
Gives you a headache when you think about it.
Yeah, and I'm like,
right.
This doesn't feel like a better way of making money than what I'm doing right now. It feels like, in a way. And it's interesting because when I think of like making money off of those things, at least this way, it makes me less motivated to do comedy and less motivated to do podcasts. But when I think of, I just want to make one of the best comedy things that are like from my peers, Just not you can't measure it like the best. Like just like one of the, and this is, I don't know, in one line with I know a Mark Norman special. And I'm like, that would be fucking worth doing. That's a thing that I would enjoy. And I feel fired up when I think about that. And I think I can get there in an unorthodox way. I don't give a shit. I can record in a basement in Bangkok and get 30 of my friends so that the laughter is good. But if I just make the jokes really, really good and I make the viewers feel a lot of comedy, that's worth it. That's what I want.
There was a moment, like one of the things that right now I feel a little bit uncomfortable about is that I always host, right? And I very rarely am there as just a comedian on the lineup. And I went to a different show, as just a comedian. I wasn't hosting. It was about 3 weeks ago. And I went in there, and there were a couple of comedians that performed with us, of course, like trying to do as many shows as possible. And I felt this rush of I want to go there, I want to destroy the room. Because if you get on stage without wanting to do that, there is no fire behind it, and stuff like that. And there was like a comedian before me who comes to our shows. He performs with us constantly, and he kills most of the times, at our shows. He gets on stage there, does about 12 minutes, and just very mild reaction. Mm-hmm. Very mild. He gets on stage, and he's visibly upset about that, I get on there. The first time in like several months that I'm just a comedian, I do 17 minutes. I destroy the fucking room. Mm. Just every second joke is laughter, applause. Every second joke is applause. Every joke is a laugh. I felt incredible, and I was like, that is something that I've been missing for a long time. It's just because I always host, I warm up the crowd, and you guys, you just need to kind of pull the logs, put the logs in there and to add like flame liquid, to make this fire fucking burn as bright as possible. It was just one of those things, like I was like, I haven't experienced that in such a long time. To just be a comedian, to just be going back to one of my friends who told me, don't agree to host all the time because that's the only thing that they will ask you to do.
That sounds a lot like we do group meditations with a monk who is was like a Russian guy who went studied in Thailand, and he was hosting those group meditations. And at some point he went that I feel like this is sort of impeding my own practice. I need to go away for a while. And then I started hosting instead of him and just doing group meditations. And I realized how much actually work it is compared to coming into a group meditation, to actually come in earlier, to be already in a state that allows you to create the space for everybody else, to accept everybody in their different states, to do that. And it's actually somehow quite close to comedy, just a very different thing you're going for.
Because you are the person who directs everything, That's actually, that is one of the reasons why I started hosting in the first place. Back then I was in Moscow, I was like, okay, so I do this all the time just as a comedian. What do I lack? I lack improvising, I lack just cold crowd, working with a cold crowd. Hosting, that was the natural way of things. I started hosting, and every time that I get there hosting, it's a challenge, It's a very nice challenge because you know that if you don't warm up the crowd, there probably will be comedians who will bring them to a very nice, laughable state, laughing state, not laughable.
Bring me to a laughable state.
Exactly, yeah. And everything will be cool, maybe. But that if you don't warm up the crowd right now, it's gonna be shit in a lot of ways, That's a really nice challenge. That's not a burden, It used to be a burden to me. Right now, I'm like, I want to make these assholes laugh, I love you guys, everyone who comes to the show, but it's just like making you laugh is a very nice challenge, and you get a lot of satisfaction when you do that, I get fired up every single time that the show goes great, and stuff like that. So it's incredible. It's incredible.
It's pretty good. What is I'm gonna just look like what is the show you were talking about? Honestly, I would just to be honest, even if I can't get there as a comedian, I would love to see an English-speaking show.
There was no, it's not a secret. I mean, there are Georgian guys and girls who put together shows, and one of those shows is in English. I used to perform there all the time.
Backstage 76.
Backstage 76, but they
banned Russians.
They banned Russians from performing, and so there was this thing. So one of my friends, who is an American by passport, he was apparently he was born in Georgia. I did not know that.
Is it Nate?
No, it's not Nate. It's George. You don't know the guy. So he used to perform in Russia. He used to live in Russia. A really cool guy. And he texts me. He was like, "Hey man, I hear that you're in Georgia, and I'm coming by." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Yeah, I you want to meet up?" And he was like, "Yeah. Do you know any shows there?" And we had a show on Sunday that week. I was like, "Here's our show." And he was like, "I'm leaving on Saturday." And I'm like, "Oh, there is another show. The Georgian guys do it, organize it, but they have Russians banned. But you're not Russian, so you can do that." I was like, "Okay, cool." And I was like, "I'll drop by just to hang out with you, because I hadn't seen the guy for like 2 years." I was like, "Yeah, I want to see him." I texted one of the organizers. I was like, "Hey, do you still have that ban?" And they were like, "Oh, unfortunately we do, no offense." I was like, "None taken, it's okay." So I still went there, and we're standing outside having conversation. All of a sudden the host comes out, he looks at me, he was like, "Hey man, I haven't seen you in a year, what the fuck?" And I was like, "Well, since they banned Russians and so on and so forth." And he was like, "Okay, cool, do you want to perform?" I was like, wait a minute, you're but I'm Russian, I was like, "I can't perform." He was like, "Dude, let's just say that I'm not going to say what he told me, because I think it might be not appropriate, sometimes maybe even offensive towards some people, but he basically told me that you're cool, And then he told me there are only 2 Russians who I will always allow on this stage, you and Dolgopolov." And I was like, "Okay, that's nice." That's really awesome. And he put me on, and that was the moment. I wasn't preparing for that, but I don't care, I can go and do that. And that was fantastic. That's great. And the audience is of course different there. They had about 60% Georgians there. And those were the hardest laughing people, really. And when I was like, "Oh, I'm Russian and I do have some observations about Georgia," when I did that material, they were laughing. It was just a very heartwarming moment for me, because as I said, this has been the first time in maybe a year that I've just gone there as a comedian, not a host. A host is a comedian, but you get what I mean.
It's interesting. I just had this conversation with Rupert and ask him about the Backstage 76, and so I don't know. I guess I'll. It's great that you managed to get some comedian work in, and I think I don't know. I feel like maybe Dasha has gotten a little warmed up towards me a little bit. Maybe I'll be able to free you from hosting once in a lifetime.
Well, I get paid for hosting. That's also an incentive,
It's true.
But it's not only about the money. You know, it's of course great to get paid for like doing what you love to do. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, I deserve this pay because I give it my all when I go there. But yeah, again, sometimes you just want to be there as a comedian, you know, not as a host.
Sure. Like I'm cool with anything actually. Like I'll try to get into the backstage through backstage, I guess. Maybe they won't let me, but I think like it won't hurt trying. And like I just see things as like there's input that I can control. Like I can make videos, I can make all sorts of stuff, and I'm actually thinking of moving to Thailand as the next place. One of the reasons is that Bangkok has an enormous amount of English open mics.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
There is a lot of English-speaking expats there, so
yeah, you can stay there for 3 months. I think they allowed Russians to stay.
no,
there
I can
months.
pay like $2,000 and get a education visa for a year.
And not go to university and not attend the university or attend.
You can learn online, and you can actually learn. I saw like you can actually learn Chinese, or I'm hoping to find a Japanese course.
Holy shit,
Or
dude!
something.
If I decide to move there, give me the contact of a person who can make it happen for
There are
$2,000.
a lot of contacts there. Actually, $2,000 is kind of like the going rate. If you have contacts, you might get it for like $1,000.
Okay.
That's true. That's like you can actually enroll. You have to every 90 days report to the immigration office, but it's just like half a day ruined, not much more.
There is a possibility that we might move eventually, but not right now because due to personal reasons. You know, my daughter is autistic, and there are specialists here, Russian-speaking specialists who work with her. You know, some people tell me, "Hey, you can move here. There are some specialists here too." I'm like, "Yeah, but they don't speak Russian, and my daughter doesn't even speak right now. You know, like let her at least go with one language at first." By the time it's like, you know, I always say this like that right now, 2 years, because in 2 years, my daughter is going to be 6. Yeah, 2.5 years. Okay. She's going to turn 6. It's a preschool age, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the country, children go to school 6, 7 years old. Doesn't really matter.
20.
Yeah, 20. So, and my thought, my way of thinking is that, okay, so in 2.5 years, we're going to take a look at, because she will speak, you know, speak hopefully. So she will speak, you know, she will have like this perception of the world. She will be able to communicate freely with people. And of course she will need a special school, but there are special schools in such countries like Thailand for Russians, you know, like for Russian kids and stuff like that. Then we're just at this age, by this age of hers, I'm going to take a look around. I'm going to decide if this is the country where I want to stay, you know, further, or do I want to move my family somewhere? Because my wife, she wants to stay in Georgia. I do too, you know, but there is still this thing that I feel pretty uncomfortable, the way that they don't give me a chance to, you know, like legalize here. Yeah, to legalize here. That's something that, you know, irks me a little bit. And of course, I personally want I don't know what's going to happen to my country and in my country over the next like 15 years. Mm-hmm. So just in case, I do want my daughter to have another citizenship. I don't care about that. You know, I'm not going to decline or I'm not going to refuse my Russian citizenship, you know. That's my position about that, you know, because one of the, I'm going to spill out some anger right now, some venom, you know the types of people who I hate the most. It's like 30-year-old people who lived in Russia for 28 years. Then when the war started, they moved somewhere else. They get a passport of a different country. And all of a sudden they're like, no, we're not Russians. I'm like, that's not how it works, motherfucker. You know, that's not how it works. So yeah, but I do want her, just in case, you know, to have more opportunities than I've ever had. You know, that's the reason, for example, why we don't want to sell our real estate in Moscow, you know, and we have, because I'm just, a real estate in Moscow is a real estate in Moscow. You know, it will always bring you some income. And this is what I want for my daughter, you know. I I lived for 25 fucking years in a one-room apartment with my parents before I got a chance to, move out and rent something on my own. I want my daughter to do that. I want her to have more opportunities. I don't want her to rush into university by the time that she's 18. Gap year. This is what we need. Really, just a chance to travel around to see what you want. Maybe you don't want to get a higher education. That's cool. You want to do something else.
Probably no mandatory military service for her.
Yeah, exactly. If she doesn't get Israeli citizenship,
True.
Of course. But still, and that's the idea. As a parent, you always want things better for your child. And right now, my life in a lot of ways it's centered around my daughter for obvious reasons. But I'm like, I still want to go to Fringe. You know how it works like that. So yeah. But yeah, the future, the next 2 years will show me what do I want to do next. Do I want to move somewhere? My thoughts were Serbia, Thailand. That's what I was thinking.
I am leaning towards Thailand for now. Even though it's not you can't really legalize there.
It's practically impossible if you're a non-citizen.
True. But honestly, I do not plan to live in Thailand for many, many years. But I feel like that's a great springboard into an English-speaking country, as you can make more connections. It's a really cosmopolitan city, Bangkok, and there are a lot of English speakers there.
True.
And so it's if after that I want to go somewhere that's I don't know, like Canada or something.
I would personally, just based on my legal abilities, I would choose Serbia, probably Belgrade, because I know that there are open mics as well, English open mics as well in Belgrade.
Do you know how many?
I think about 3 for sure.
A week?
Yep.
Man, that's a lot more than here.
Yep. I mean, I've been following some people who live in Belgrade and they go to comedy shows there as well, English comedy shows.
Cool.
So yeah, there is that. And again, Belgrade, Novi Sad, they have also, both cities have English shows. Novi Sad is just 90-minute car drive from Belgrade. It's not a lot.
Get a car.
Yeah, and besides, it's much easier to legalize in Serbia.
It is very easy to legalize in Serbia.
Yeah.
It is pretty
a month,
easy.
You go there, you register yourself as a private entrepreneur, right? You start your own company. Yeah, you have to pay tax. It's about 20%, if I'm not mistaken. So 1/5 of your income into the Serbian
20% for the private
treasury.
entrepreneur?
Yep, I think so. 20%.
Interesting. I know that as if you're for employees, it's 10%, and then over a certain amount of money, it goes to 15%.
But that's about employees, because if you register your own business, you'll be the business owner. Yeah, and it's a different game.
Okay.
So, but still, it's doable. Besides, so you do that, you collect all of the documents, you file the application for residence. You need to wait for a month to show some income that your company has, right? File your tax report, and that's it. After 1 month, you can file the documents, wait for 2 months, I think, and that's it. They give you a residence permit. If you show that it's all clean, everything is legal, that's it. There are companies who help you do that. I have a student who got a residence permit in Serbia after only 2 weeks of being there, and he spent, I think, 3,500 euros for that.
Serbia is pretty close to Edinburgh,
it is
compared to.
Besides,
Thailand
it's a pretty Europeanized country. The government is kind of but I mean, in Georgia it's the same way. But yep, it's pretty close. I mean, it has the status of a candidate to the European Union, as well. So
I hate the moment right now, because I personally have several countries that I'm thinking about that I could move to, and it's very hard to collect actual arguments for one or the other, and that's the worst part, because you have to fuck, how do I choose?
That's the thing. I was if it was just me and my wife, my wife and I, we would probably jump from one country to another. But when you have a child, that kind of complicates things.
Yeah, we have a dog. A dog is almost like a child.
The dog also complicates things a little bit.
But it's a very big dog, because it doesn't like it. You'll have to ship him and get
He's
certificates.
friendly, so.
He's nice, true.
But yeah, I have a cool story from. I have a student. She lives in St. Petersburg, and she's about to move to a different country. But she loves horse riding, and she has her own horse.
Yeah.
And the thing is that she needs 1 million rubles to move her horse to like another country, with all the documents, with all the vaccinations and stuff, and stuff like that. It's 1 million rubles.
Damn, boy.
It's
like,
just like,
what is like $100 now?
It's 10,000.
Okay,
I think,
okay.
Yeah. It's like you're thinking about this. You're like, holy fuck, But that's the thing. Of course, you need much less when you move a dog.
True.
But
it's just a hassle.
Yeah.
Like you just need like, okay, honestly, I guess the studio is more of a problem than the dog. But I've been thinking, of instead of like buying new tech, if I get money, I'm thinking of buying, like the things that band members go around with. Yeah. Those cases with
those
foam
gigantic,
inside. Yeah.
Those gigantic cases, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I haven't looked at they're kind of expensive and I need to really figure out which ones to get. But I'm hoping to actually manage to make this shit portable, even at least a little bit, because it's just annoying to move around. And the problem is I will be crying sad tears of agony about my table, because it goes up and down, man. And it's like, see, the shape allows me to do all sorts of shit with it.
Yeah. No, I had the same shaped table in Moscow. It was just a pity that I couldn't take it with me. My wife's father made it for me because he has his own furniture production. It was a real wood, it was like, fuck. I can't take it with me. It
was expensive. I think just moving this table, it wasn't that expensive, but it was annoying. It was like $200 to move it.
I think that, just in general, moving stuff, it's doable because there are transport companies that do that,
We use the bus.
Yeah, it's all a matter of money. Just like how much money it would cost you. That's about that.
I think we're can be finishing up. We've done
we're just now we're talking about our plans.
It's just it's
potential plans.
It's just so I had a nice shit today. So I've been thinking more fiber, this.
Oh, that was it. But it was a good talk.
It was a good talk.
That was a good talk. Yeah, and a lot of very interesting things. I think to reflect.
This session would be $150. It's whenever you're ready.
I'll give you 15. I'll give you 15 minutes tomorrow at the show. So
that's how it's done.
Let's bargain in minutes on stage.
I want to say that if you if you need any help with doing the special, I'm happy to see what I can do, basically. I don't know, if there's...
You're the person in my head who... you're the person I've had in my head when I think about special who would help me out with video production.
That's actually what I...
That's what I'm thinking. I want to... right now, it all comes down to... Dashi's up for it, our organizer, she has nothing against it. But if it was up to me, I would want to do it at an actual comedy club.
Buhari Stand-Up Club is actually really good for angles and stuff. The way I see it, it's pretty good. The lighting is good. So that's...
But it's just... but I just need... at this point, I need to convince the guys that it's worth a shot, that they can sell this show and so on and so forth. So
honestly, I would say that that's doable with some legwork, because it is an important thing for you and for this small community. And I don't think there's anything horrible about packing the the place with comedians, with friends of friends.
No, you can do that definitely. But I'm trying right now a little bit different approach, because I'm also trying to convince them to put up more English shows at the club, because I was there is a demand for that, there's the talk show that we had. Yeah, there were mostly Russians in there, but we had about 25 people. And everybody spoke English. Everybody was interacting. It was pretty cool. And then besides, it would be very freaking awesome if more comedians would have, if English-speaking comedians would have more chances to perform.
We really need to somehow get the word out, because I would be at that show. I mean, literally in the audience. If I knew that it was going on. So that's the problem. Like I couldn't even figure it out.
And it's just because, I think that the owner of the club is not completely sold out on the idea of English shows,
Not completely sold out on the idea. I like instead of sold on the idea, if you're sold out on the idea,
fuck yeah,
it means you're so sold.
I misspoke there.
You're so sold on the idea, you do not believe in it anymore. You used to be sold on the Bible, but now you're sold out on the Bible.
You're sold out on the Bible.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, the guy I think is not just really sold on the idea of English shows yet. And you can do it, but that's like a different demographic. The advertising should be. It kind of the advertising techniques are the same, just should be in English. That's all that there is to it.
Yeah, and you just need to get the comedians as well to repost and go do all that shit.
But that's just like that's on. Even I would be okay with doing that, just finding the comedians, for shows. I'll be all up for that. I know everybody, So, but there is just a different problem, and this is what I just fucking don't like about some people. There were a couple of comedians who come to our shows.
Yeah,
they did the open mic at Bukhari like twice.
Yeah.
They got very mild reaction, and they were like, "I'm not gonna go there again."
No, that's loser talk, man.
yeah, exactly.
That's not good.
Exactly. So I was like, "Okay, well, all right." It's just, and it's just like this is what I'm talking about all the time when I talk to comedians, up and coming comedians. I'm like, you have to get out of your comfort zone. Because if you're serious on doing that, you might be doing that in one particular place where the crowd is always warmed, and they're welcoming. And then somebody would be like, hey, you know what? I've seen you perform and the reaction was good of the audience. Can I pay you some money so you would do the gig at one place? You're like, okay, sure. You go there, 15 minutes of silence. And you're like, how come? Well, maybe because you've never gotten out of your comfort zone. Get out of your comfort zone when you're on stage. If you have a place with very warm crowd, go do other place where the crowd is not very warm.
But by the third hour, your accent is drifting towards like an old Jewish woman from New York. Like, you get out there, you do this, you know what, you're gonna
it sounds more like a soprano accent or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is true. You have to do as many spots as you can. And is it uncomfortable when people don't laugh at your material? Yeah, it is. Well, do something about it,
I would say about filming videos or doing some stuff. Just to explain, I'm sometimes somebody will come up to me like, "Oh, you're filming the entire open mic." I'm like, "No, I'm filming myself."
Yeah.
And it's but I'm not against. Actually, if there is a specific ask of me to film something and do something, it will take some energy and stuff. But if it's important and good, I'd love to do that. It's just that I'm not going around doing I'll film everybody and then I'll try to force them to take the files and I'll spend hours of my life and hundreds of dollars in my work hours just to try and force recordings on people. That's not what I'm going to do at all.
Dude, it's you don't have to do that. People have mouths, people have brains. They can come to you and ask you. You shouldn't be like, okay, do you want me to film?
But I feel like with the podcasts, I finally found something that makes sense to people in a way that do you want to you don't have to do anything but come in and talk. Do you want to be on a podcast? I'll make it, and then it's it works both ways, and it's okay. And I guess
imagine reflecting, going back, watching the podcast, shit, I made such an ass out of myself. I love those moments, by the way, when I sound like a fucking asshole. When I rewatch it and I'm like, I'm too pushy here, or I'm too retarded to understand the point here.
I think
that's interesting.
That's
nice.
Our first podcast is I have cringe moments. But I think they are absolutely okay to have.
No, it's great. That's what makes it interesting as well.
I'm afraid in a way, so I'm very fully aware that I'm with the podcasts as well. I'm in the shit phase in a way that's I'm it's if somebody has the energy, and if you're still here after probably more than 2 hours, then thank you very much. Like, and
We appreciate that, really.
but
We do.
it would take so much energy and like to get through the beginning where we were kind of like forming like what we're thinking about, and some of the stuff we're talking about is very based on the context that we have. But I'm sure like we'll watch back this podcast, we'll think about it, and we'll learn to do podcasts better. So that's okay. Well, anyway, thank you for coming in. I think 3
Always a
hours
pleasure.
is a good stopping point.
That's always a
Honestly,
pleasure.
yeah, and thank you guys to like, subscribe, and I don't know, cover your asshole or do whatever,
And leave comments under that. Tell us that we are great. Tell us that we are shit. Tell us
True.
anything. You can take out my mom on a date if you're in Moscow.
Let's all take out Kirill's mom on a date.
Go to Moscow.
Bye.
Bye. Ciao.